You are about to listen to a Jason Burgos exclusive interview. Some of the Bellator countdown show for the fight tonight. I'm pretty excited for it. What are your thoughts on that fight? I mean, I'm sure most people are going to pick Bader. Do you think Fedor has a decent chance at all?
It's not really, but it's the fight. It's the fight game, man. And I've seen worse. You know what I'm saying? But I don't really think he has much of a chance. It sucks to say because Fedor is a great. He's a legend But Bader's right now kind of in his prime, man. Mm-hmm. Like Bader's found his second coming, and I just see him running through everybody for a while.
Now, I got three main topics to talk about, so I got a lot of questions now. The first question is, when the idea was floated about coaching Greg Hardy at ATT, was there any second guessing at all for you, or did you kind of jump at the chance, and when maybe other coaches really weren't jumping at it?
Not really. I mean, I didn't know who he was. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody knew who he was. Yeah, nobody knew who he was. So when he came here, they were just kind of like, oh yeah, this NFL player wants to train, and I was like, I mean, and it wasn't even like a big deal. It was it wasn't like something that we all sat down like as a coaching staff and talked about. It was first round management brought him to us, and I work closely with them on some other fighters. So they actually asked me if I would work with him. I was like, yeah, no problem. I didn't even know who he was, and it didn't come out till later who he was. And then I was just kind of like, man, and I had been working with him for a while. And I was like, man, he's a good kid. So, yeah, I'm just going to continue to keep working with him. And it's no need to start digging into his past. Let's just keep working.
When you started working with him, did his physical gifts stand out to you? I mean, just being there, because I was at the ESPN 1 show, being cage side for the UFC show. He's a very large, muscular man with like a clear explosiveness to him. Like, is his physical gifts something different than the normal you've dealt with, other than Tyron Woodley, of course?
Yeah, for that size, absolutely. Because most guys that size are just extremely slow. Like they're flat-footed and they're slow and that's not a disrespect. I mean, they're just, most guys, if you're 250 pounds, you're just not going to move all that fast. But, watching him move when he wanted to, it was like, wow, man, this guy is really fast. And that was definitely a standout attribute that impressed me and attracted to me more to want to work with him. So, yeah, definitely, man, like just, I've seen it before, like Tyron Woodley, Kyoji Horiguchi, some of these other guys that can move, and any small guy can move, but to be 280 pounds and move like that was like, man, I haven't seen this before.
Now, obviously, his past transgressions will follow him, with good reason. I mean, it will take time for people to forgive the situation and understand it. Now, nevertheless, since it is always brought up in his interviews and everything, do you feel like it's a weight that hangs over him during his training and during his career so far?
No. I mean, we don't talk about it. Mm-hmm. It only comes up when all that stuff only comes up when people keep bringing it up, but we don't talk about it. And for me, it's like, I don't talk about it because I don't, if I were to talk about people's past, I could talk about anybody's past. I could go back and hey, man, look at you, man. Why, look at what's going on with you. And I could do that. And I think we live in a society where people are insecure with themselves, so they keep bringing up everybody else's past and to make themselves feel better about the dirt that they do. Mm-hmm. The dirt that they've done. So so he'll never outlive that because everybody's always going to bring that up because people are insecure with themselves and not happy with themselves. So they want to make sure that somebody else is miserable. Misery loves company. Mm. But as far as we go, I don't, again, like I didn't know him back then. So I'm not going to keep bringing it up like, hey man, remember this. Yeah. So, hey, I don't bring that up.
So now to the fight itself. He looked strong early, but there seemed to be a moment where he tired a bit, but it still looked like the man likely to probably win eventually and get that W. Then the illegal knee comes. What are the first thoughts when this happened? Was it simply like a, oh shit, no kind of moment? Like what happened? What were you thinking when that all turns, goes down at the event?
And I have to be completely, from a coaching perspective, I always want to be honest, and that's the only way my fighters get better. And during that fight where Greg did look, where he was sharp, I mean, not even sharp, but where he was strong, I felt he was sloppy, and he wasn't doing exactly what I know he's capable of doing, and that's for me. So when the guy took his shots early on, and didn't get knocked out, and Greg got even more sloppy, that's when I was kind of like, damn, let's slow down, But he didn't, and he got worse because the guy didn't take his shots, so it got worse, and he got worse because of that, and I think that's why he gassed out because. Early on in his career, he'd been knocking guys out in 30 seconds. When he didn't do it this time, it got worse, and he tried harder to knock the guy out. And he got really sloppy, and he got tired from doing that. And for me, that's when I was, that's when I realized that, Greg, being a high-level profile athlete, he's still not really a fighter yet. There's a lot of things that you have to learn. And even experienced fighters make that mistake. But this is a guy who only knows from his sports career how to be aggressive, a defensive end, like just constantly attack the quarterback. In terms of a fight, you can't attack. Sometimes you got to sit back a little bit. And those are things that he has to learn and has to have trust in. And he's still learning that. And we're going to get there, I promise you.
Now, I mean, you've coached a lot of fighters. You've had a great career yourself. And for, people that are listening, how important is it in that? Because, if people see fighters, oh, they're in their training or, doing all this stuff, hours upon hours, days upon days. How important is it really to get and fight? Like, how important is the fight, actual in the cage, in the fight experience compared to just the training aspect where you're drilling? Like, why is it so important to be in there in the fighting? Is it just the emotions, the adrenaline? Is it just an unmatched kind of situation that the more experience a fighter gets, and like for Greg, the more actual fights he has, it'll make him a better fighter?
Well, I mean, just about that competition, like you have to have experience in competition, and you can't recreate that in practice, especially as a heavyweight. Like some lighter guys can recreate it because, they move more and they don't hit each other as much. Like as heavyweights, like I said, they don't move as well, so they hit each other. So like even in practice, you can't be competing against your partners as heavyweights. So it's really difficult to get that experience. This is another reason why like a lot of wrestlers have success because they have they've been competing all through high school, through college, and it's just one-on-one competition, and they're constantly competing in one-on-one scenarios. Greg hasn't had that a lot. So no matter how much we train, we have to do, and this is what I was saying earlier this week, is that I have to do a better job of getting him prepared for that one-on-one competition because he hasn't had a lot of that. Right. And being able to go back and forth with another human being in a one-on-one competitive scenario, because you just can't, it's very difficult to recreate that in practice. So, that's something that we got to do a better job of.
Now, how do you recreate that? Because I know it's tough. I mean, I've seen shows and stuff like that, and where they'll have a guy, they'll have an audience, they'll have a guy do the whole walkout. Time like how can you recreate that for like you said, guys of that size? It's hard to go all the way.
Yeah, and that's really kind of the way you do it. You have to try to have these mock workouts or mock practices where you can tap into those senses where a guy is being under stress a little harder or being under the microscope a little harder. And we just have to try to recreate that for Greg or for any athlete. I don't want to just kind of throw Greg under the bus because it's not exclusive to Greg Hardy. It's for anybody. And we do have to try to recreate that so that he does start to learn to feel that pressure and be able to deal with it a little bit better. But again, it's not just Greg. It's a lot of athletes. I would probably say it's more athletes than not that have to go through that and that have that stress and don't perform as well. Because if any fighter, you look at any fighter and go, oh man, I'm so much better. I train so much better. And the reason why they can't do it is because there is that gap between practice and performance. And that doesn't only even exist in fighting, it exists in public speaking. It exists in anything of a nature which you're doing it in front of the public. So, but in terms of fight, you can get hurt. So it's a lot more dangerous. You could really get hurt in a fight by not performing at your best. So, moving forward, some of the things that we do are going to have to change in that aspect.
Now, moving on to one of the very best fighters on the planet, Tyron Woodley. Before the Till fight, you felt and you told me, Colby should have been the next guy. We are at a new fight set. Once again, it is not what most fans would like in a bout with Tyron and Colby. Does this feel like another big missed opportunity for the UFC, or is this kind of situation is sort of an example of like the logistics of fight booking and getting schedules of different fighters to match up at the right time? It's actually much harder than fans understand.
It's harder than what fans understand because, it's easy to look at what's exposed to the world when fighters are able to, especially with social media, when fighters are able to tell the side of the story that they want. Mm-hmm. And the UFC, they reserve themselves at times, and they only tell the story that they want when they want to tell the story that they want. So it's easy to make it look like, oh, this should have happened, that should have happened, this guy's running from this guy's ducking this guy, but nobody really knows all the facts because the UFC doesn't present all the facts until they want to. So in my opinion, I felt like, yes, it was a missed opportunity. I felt like Colby deserved the fight, but there's obviously things going on behind the scenes that I don't know about, So I don't know all the details and why Colby didn't get the fight and why this didn't happen. Again, I thought Colby should have got the fight, but in the UFC's case, like, it's not really a missed opportunity. It's still just a fight, and they can make up for that fight with another big fight. Mm-hmm. And Colby's going out, and Dana said that what Dana did say was Colby would get his shot, so it's still going to happen. I'm just hoping that Colby can maintain that same amount of pressure, and kind of hazing Tyron and the public to keep the interest up. Can he keep that up for a long enough time? Because he's done it for 2 years so successfully, and it's like, man, you did earn it, but now they pulled it from you. Mm-hmm. Now you got to keep doing it so that when you get your ass whooped, it makes sense again.
Yeah. Now, myself and a colleague from Sherdog, Anthony Walker, we do, a podcast on Sherdog, and the fight has been rumblings of this possibly happening for a while. So we've talked about the fight, and we both feel while Usman may lack Colby's sizzle, he might be just a tougher matchup. Do you feel the same? Like, is Kamaru Usman a tougher matchup than Colby would have been, or are we overlooking Colby Covington's abilities?
No. We're not overlooking Colby's abilities, and we're not looking. See, it's not necessarily a tougher matchup because Colby does bring a lot to the table in terms of like pressure and his his conditioning and just the ability to win fights that you might not assume he would win. Again, sometimes it comes down to that, being able to perform. And it's clear that Colby can perform. Like, under the lights, Colby will perform and get it done. So you can never underestimate him or overlook that fact. Now, with that being said, Kamaru Usman has proved that he can get the job done and perform under the lights as well. But he's a different challenge. I think Usman is a little bit better defensively. He moves his feet a little bit better. And I think he's a better overall striker and has a more diverse skill set. But I don't find him to be a tougher matchup. He presents a different challenge in a way.
Now, Usman has some similar characteristics to Tyron, that they're both very good athletes, strong wrestling. Usman has some solid pop in his fist. However, like most matchups, Tyron's fight IQ and just sheer explosiveness sets him apart from other guys. Is this a fight where you don't do too much worrying about what Kamaru does, and it's more about focusing on those skills that make Tyron so different and so great, make sure he gets to the fight healthy, and pretty much just showcase his skills against Kamaru Usman?
No, it's easy to say no. Fighters use that excuse all the time. I don't care what he does. I'm going to just do what I do. And that's honorable. I respect that, but it's still lazy. You always have to be prepared for what another person can bring to the table. You don't wait for them to do it. And you don't want to allow them to do it, but you also have to know what they're capable of. So it's not a good idea, especially if you're a professional. If you're a professional fighter, I mean, if your job is to prepare for a fight and you have, 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months to prepare for a fight, you should be doing your homework. And it's like, that's like an NFL team not doing their scouting report and just going, Tom Brady just going to worry about what Tom Brady does. We're not going to worry about this. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to do your homework and your research. You don't want to let them do it or allow them to have those opportunities, but you need to do your homework. So, we're doing our research, and we do what we need to do to make sure that Tyron has the best chances of winning in this fight.
Now, he recently mentioned once again moving up to middleweight, which he's said before. Has that been something talked about within the team for a long time?
Not really a long time. I think that his goal before was to just prove that he was the number one middleweight, or number one welterweight in the world. I'm sorry, number one welterweight in the world, and then say that he was the greatest welterweight of all time. But I think this year he has a newfound goal, and that's to get Fighter of the Year. So his goal is to get Fighter of the Year, and the only way to do that is to get those type of fights. He has to have some, not only high-profile fights, but some risky fights. So he does have to take some chances. So he obviously wants to fight Usman. I think that, we recognize that Colby deserves a shot. So I know he wants to do that one. And then because there's nobody else in the welterweight division that's kind of a clear-cut standout next opponent after Colby, the only thing he can do is move up to middleweight to prove that he's the best.
And now, speaking of best in the world, I mean, with a win against Usman, of down the line win against Covington, Woodley honestly has a legit case as the best welterweight ever over George St. Pierre. Do you feel you have helped to coach the best welterweight of all time?
See, that's a tough question because it really is. But at some level, I'm proud of that accomplishment. I think that Tyron would have been great anyway. Tyron would have been a great fighter anyway, and he would probably still be champion without me. But there is something about the chemistry that we have, not just me and him, but collectively as a team that he's put together. Like, he's put together a team that's from across the United States. I mean, the boxing coach Eric Brown is from L.A., from Wild Card in L.A., Duke Rufus here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and myself from South Florida. And he's put together this team. And I'm just proud to be a part of the team that we put together and the chemistry that we have that allows him to perform at his best. I think, but again, Tyron, his skill set and the way his mind works and, his athletic attributes, he's always going to have that. But whatever it is that the team was able to put together, it just hopefully he could be the greatest of all time, and we could say, hey, listen, this is what we did.
There's a lot of great coaches that they've had a bunch of great fighters during their career, but there's always often that one that really stands out, like Duke Rufus, Anthony Pettis, John Hackerman, and Chuck Liddell. Some of those relationships that are so special. You have that with Tyron. What is it about? What is that chemistry that bonds you together? What is it that makes your relationship different than your relationship you maybe had with other fighters, and it makes it so successful? What is that glue that brings you together in a unique way?
We just know how to tolerate each other. That's really what it is. It's like we tolerate each other, and and I was telling a fighter this week. They were talking about because I couldn't go with them to a fight, and I'm just like, sometimes it's not about you needing the technical coach in the corner that you need, because how to fight, and Tyron knows how to fight. Again, sometimes it's just getting that fighter to perform, and sometimes that's just being comfortable, and sometimes as a coach, it's not about the technical work, it's just making them comfortable, and so that they can perform at their best. And that's, I think, one of the things that me and Tyron has is that, he's just I don't know, just being around him all week, and we're just comfortable together, and I don't stress him out, and I don't make him feel like this is the end of the world, and some coaches do that to fighters, and I think that may be what it is. We can tolerate each other to where, fight week, he's cutting weight, he's miserable, he's yelling at everybody, and we're just like, hey, man, that's cool. Yeah, but that's just how fighters are, man, and you have to understand that and give them that respect, because they're about to do something that could change their lives financially and physically. Like it could be great one way financially or disastrous one way physically. So there's a lot of stress involved with that. And like the chemistry that we have, me and Tyron, we just get each other, and I allow him to just be at his best.
Now, speaking of GOATs, speaking of great relationships, you have a long time close friendship with Amanda Nunes, through the connections of American Top Team and all that stuff. Tell me a bit about how you two ended up bonding and what makes her honestly so damn likable.
It's weird that everybody did you could say she's likable, because she is probably one of the most, likable characters that you'll meet in the fight game. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why me and her are friends, and it's probably why we don't work together from a coaching fighter perspective anymore, because we are friends, and because she's just kind of a clown. And yeah, she's kind of a clown, and everybody knows that I'm a clown. Like at the end of the day, like all I want to do is have fun and laugh. Yeah. And that's all she wants to do is have fun and laugh. And when we're around each other, that's what we do. We just have fun and laugh. And I don't know, like and I just, for whatever reason, that's all we do is have fun and laugh. And I think we recognize that, after when I actually coached her for the Valentina Shevchenko fight, her first one I was her main coach for the first fight that never happened. And then kind of after that, we never got to work together at that same capacity, because every time we got around each other, we would just like laugh around, joke around and dance. And, and that's what our relationship has kind of came down to. And I think it's better that way for us, because, she's proved to be the greatest female fighter to ever live. And I'm proud of her for that.
Were you her coach for a long time, like through the Strikeforce years, or was it an off and on kind of thing?
No. I didn't work with her back then.
Okay.
I didn't start working with her until, actually, I didn't start working with her until, Misha Tate.
Okay.
Misha Tate is when I first started working with her. So it's only been a couple of, like, on a coaching perspective. Mm-hmm. So prior to that, we like maybe spar around a little bit, play around a little bit, but it was the Misha Tate fight where I actually did the scouting report on Misha, and then, worked with her on some things that she needed to do in order to win the fight. And then after that, it was Misha, then Ronda, and then Valentina again, then Raquel, and now Cyborg. I mean, I still work with her. I still scout the opponents for her. Mm-hmm. But in terms of like showing up to practice with her, I don't do that no more. Yeah.
Now, I mean, I'm glad you brought up best female fighter of all time, 'cause I think it's clear she is the best female fighter ever, without a doubt. But where would you put her all time for both genders? I mean, some may question the level of competition in women's MMA to men's at this current time, but I liken her run to like a Randy Couture or Chuck Liddell or Ortiz did in their time. If they are put on those lists with, inferior competition compared to now with the level of athlete that comes in the sport, I can't see why she isn't in a top 10 all-time list, men and women. Like, where would you put it? Is she, a top 10, top 5 fighter no matter what gender?
Definitely top 10, no matter the gender. I can't say top 5 because of strength of schedule. Mm-hmm. You can't because of, and there's nothing against like female fighters. It's just that like if you were to take the 145-pound division mm-hmm. and go, all right, name 10 of them of all time, you'd struggle. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like you couldn't name 10 145-pound female fighters, and you'd struggle. So you'd have to say strength of schedule in those terms. But the fact that she did beat Cyborg is a mm-hmm. big thing, even though like that strength of schedule isn't there. But regardless of the strength of schedule, Cyborg is still mm-hmm. a terrifying and yet terrific fighter. No matter who she fights, she's a great fighter. Cyborg could possibly be on a greatest of all time list herself, which makes Amanda's win over her even more impressive. And then the fact that she beat, Ronda Rousey, who, again, she was packaged as the greatest of all time during her run. Those on the inside know that's not true, but she still had a tremendous run, and Amanda busted her up. Miesha Tate is a gamey veteran, and she was a champ. She busted her up. So, I mean, you have to put Amanda on that list in top 10 of greatest of all time, male or female. And if not top 5, you probably couldn't go top 5, but yes, definitely somewhere between, 6 and 10, she'd have to be on there. And it's still not too late for her to crack the top 5.